Good morning, and thank you all for being here with us. I'm Ken Silver. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business of the Mount Vernon Schools. I have a statement from Dr. Hamilton that he has asked me to read on his behalf. Good morning to this distinguished dais of thoughtful leaders. Regrettably, I am unable to attend this historic press conference this morning. I have a pressing family matter that requires my attention, which prohibits my attendance. However, Congressman Bowman Green Stimulus, Climate, and Community Project is the single most innovative, comprehensive initiative I have ever seen. What this proposal creates will literally revolutionize programs for students that will be a direct pathway to careers and professions projected to be in dire need within the next 5 years. It will directly springboard an economic revitalization for our schools and community by making a linkage to trades and environmental professions that we haven't even started to touch upon. It will address facilities needs that go far beyond what we could ever accomplish in a general budget cycle. As an educator, Congressman Bowman speaks a language I have not heard others embrace. I'm beyond excited about this endeavor. When Congressman first shared this with me, I wanted to desperately tout about this innovative concept, but I respected the need to be conservative about its disclosure. But today I am boiling over with enthusiasm for what this means to Mount Vernon City School District and the Mount Vernon community. Not only is this needed, but there are residual benefits that are immeasurable and will put Mount Vernon light years ahead of other progressive communities. Thank you, Congressman Bowman, for your vision, insightful thoughtfulness, idealism, and most of all for thinking about Mount Vernon. Next will be Board President, Trustee Darcy Miller.
Good morning, everyone. This is indeed for educators, for anyone in Mount Vernon, but for people who are committed to education and to the future of our country, which is our children. This is really a historic proposal. I'm very, very excited and grateful to Congressman Bowman for coming up with this, for proposing this, for thinking of communities such as ours. This building that we're standing in front of, the Mount Vernon S.T.E.A.M Academy, reflects the commitment that our district has had to 21st century learning. We have made a commitment to prepare our students for the future, for jobs, as Dr. Hamilton referenced, that don't even exist yet. And we're doing incredible work. We're excited. We really need the help. At this point in time, our students are gritty, they're resilient, but we also know that if given the right resources, they can rule the world. And that's what we're going for here. That's where we want to be the wind under their wings. And I really feel that this proposal will put us light years ahead. With all the work we've done, we're really ready. We're ready to go forward. So we will do anything we can to support this initiative, and we hope that the community galvanizes with us because our children are our future. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Miller. Next is Assemblyman Gary Pretlow.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know that we're here to thank the Congressman for this future endeavor, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank him for the current endeavor, and that is the rescue plan that he and the Congress and the Senate passed that is going to be a boon to not only this city, not only this Board of Education, not only the Yonkers Board of Education, but every school district in the state. And through their efforts, they have really cut child poverty and hunger down to down to half, which is a yeoman's job. The last time there was a major increase in school structures was during the Depression, and then the WPA put federal money in to build schools. But back then, asbestos was seen as a godsend, and lead was easy to put in pipes. Those schools are still in existence right now, and with this legislation being proposed by the congressman, that will go away and make these schools safe for all of our children. So I want to thank the congressman from the bottom of my heart for being a driving force behind this effort. And I look forward to when it begins. I mean, billions and billions of dollars. I mean, I remember, I'm an old guy, and I remember when $1,000 was a lot of money, and then it was $1 million, and then it was $1 billion. Now we're talking trillions, so trillions of dollars going to education. And like they say in the street, you can't beat that with a stick. Thank you.
Next is Mount Vernon Mayor Sean Patterson Howard.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much. We are excited to be here this morning. We want to thank our Congressman Bowman. There's different people who come in to fix, and then there are others who are transformational leaders. And that is what this proposal is about, transformation. It is an air, land, and sea approach to not only educating our children, but making sure that the structures in which they learn in have undergone the necessary repairs and upgrades, because this is also about environmental justice. This also addresses equity, because I thank you for looking at this through an equity lens, Congressman Bowman. It's not just about equally distributing the money, but it also calls for distributing the money where the money is needed most. And we know that not every community has been resourced equitably. And so this is what that does. So we thank you for the investment into the physical structure, but we thank you for thinking about the need to expand education, ensure that the social and emotional needs of our children are being taken care of through programs and through resources and social workers and teaching assistants, ensuring that they're all skilled up. And then we thank you for making sure that our children, some of them who are challenged the most, and our Title I schools, as well as our children who are suffering and might be behind academically and have some cognitive and emotional challenges, that there is also specialized funding for them. And so we look forward to advocating and to pushing for the proposal to go through and to become a reality. And again, thank you for the rescue plan, which will address not only the cities getting $42.3 million, but the school district will get $47 million from that plan. So thank you, and we look forward to continued partnership.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next is Jasmine Gripper, Executive Director of the Alliance for Quality Education.
I am excited to be here. I'm Jasmine Gripper, the Executive Director of the Alliance for Quality Education. We are a statewide organization focused on education, equity, and making sure our kids have the resources that they need, and not all kids, but Black, brown, and low-income children. And I applaud Congressman Bowman for taking bold steps. The COVID-19 pandemic taught education that we have to do things differently. We have a system that is over 100 years old that hasn't transformed to keep up with modern times, mostly due to a lack of resources and investment. And in this moment, we were forced to think innovatively. How can we do teaching different? Could we do outdoor learning? How are we incorporating technology in the home and in the classroom? And now in this moment, we have a proposal that sets us up for another leap and bound in transformational change to education with a policy, the policy and the resources behind it in order to move our schools forward, in order to move an education agenda that sets our kids up to succeed, that sets our school buildings up to be different, and in order to make sure our kids are able to transform the world in the years to come. We thank you, Congressman Bowman, for this bold effort and for the American Rescue Plan that is sending billions of dollars to schools right here in New York State, where they are desperately needed. And we look forward to how we're going to continue to move education in the right direction to support our most vulnerable students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gripper. Next is Debbie Burell Butler, Executive Director of the Mount Vernon Youth Bureau.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm extremely excited to be, you know what, let me take this now because I'm too excited to be covered up with masks. So when I got the phone call to be here this morning, I was so excited because I was wondering what am I going to say? And I'm like, I don't have to have anything prepared because you know what? I'm a product of the Mount Vernon school system. I'm a product of Mount Vernon. And I do know that we're operating in stuff from when I was in the 80s. So for you to take this bold step to reach out to me and for me to be the voice for the thousands of youth and families that I interact with each and every day that's asking for a change, I will make sure they know that you're a part of this change. You're a part of this historic change. And I want to just say, Mayor, thank you too for giving me this platform. Our kids need all the help. They don't need a handout. They need a hand up, right? Let's not look at our black and brown babies of like giving them the last bit of whatever is left on the table. We need to make sure that they're at the table. Make sure they're able to compete with other school districts. I'm not here to bring the race game in, but I've been here for 20 years. I service my youth. Black and brown babies are always at the bottom of the table. We need to bring them up, okay? Because my babies that I serve in the Youth Bureau, one day will become the mayor. One day will be the Congress. One day will be the Assemblyman. I'm not just here to put that out there. It's a growing fact because I am a product of my Youth Bureau and a product of Mount Vernon. Keep my babies in mind, and thank you.
Thank you. Next is Derek Thompson, Mount Vernon City Council representative and representative from the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers.
Hello everyone, y'all say I have on my union shirt, right? So I am excited to all the elected officials here. I'm excited to work along with Jamaal Bowman and everyone here because education is important. And I'm excited that we have someone in position who is from the educational field and is looking to make sure that our babies are taken care of. So finally, we are at the table like Ms. Burell said, and we're going to do the best by our children so our children can be the best citizens they can be. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Next is Sam Wallace, Executive Director of Yonkers Partners in Education.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me, and thank you to the Congressman for putting a focus on holistic education for students. If there's one thing we've really learned from this pandemic, it's that schools have become the social safety net for so many families, whether that's counseling or food services or everything else schools have been asked to tackle over these years without the funding to do that and has still found a way to make it work. The Congressman is bringing focus to that, and this proposal will be helpful in making sure that my organization, Yonkers Partners in Education, doesn't have to exist so that the schools can support students. And when a kid says, I'm struggling with a year in quarantine, they don't need to piece together a mental health solution. There's a comprehensive plan for that student so that when students come back in the fall, they're ready to go and can hit the ground running. And as the other speakers have said, so that they can really seize the moment and do the jobs of the future and be ready for careers that will pay them and have upward mobility for them and their families. So Congressman, thank you for bringing this focus to think about students holistically. We're partners in this work, and we look forward to seeing this really change lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Devon Lomax, DC 9 Political Director.
Good morning, and my name is Devon Lomax again from District Council 9. We're the Painters and Allied Trades Union, representing most of New York State. I want to thank the Congressman for putting together this proposal. I myself am a product of a union apprenticeship program. And when we talk about education, when we talk about unemployment rates in disadvantaged communities, and when we talk about how low-income communities have been affected most by climate change, this proposal addresses the needs for our children to get vocational education and to really, get a union apprenticeship under your belt. And again, this proposal brings all that to focus. As a painter myself, I've seen what can happen when you give a kid an opportunity. Too many kids fall through the cracks when they, barely finish high school or get a GED. How can we get them into an apprenticeship program where they're learning a trade, and a trade that if they decided to ever leave where they grew up, they could carry their hands and their trade with them wherever they go. And again, how do we bring that to focus? So I want to thank the Congressman again for bringing this attention to this need, and I look forward to working with everyone to see its passage. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Latonya Russell-Humes, Executive Director of Neuroshell Boys and Girls Club.
Good morning, and I'd also like to thank the Congressman for having me here. I think everyone has said this, but I think it's important to note that this is what happens when we have representatives who reflect the community and understand the community that they serve. This legislation, for the 6,700 kids that we typically serve each year, finally means that their zip codes will not determine the quality of their education. It's already been said that this looks through an equity lens. This is the first time that we are talking about significant investment in young people, not as an afterthought, not giving the young people crumbs, but understanding that the economy that we all so love to talk about, the economy is our young people. The economy is our communities, and the economy is us. And as long as we continue to send representatives like Congressman Bowman, we will continue to have legislation that reflects the needs and the realities that we live in today. We can no longer educate folks in a system that was not built for black and brown kids, but we now are moving towards having an education that understands that in the 21st century, we need to educate all our children equitably as necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Lanice Eversley, educator.
Teacher, yes. I'm honored to be here, Congressman. I am a master teacher in the Bronx for the New York City Department of Education. I've been a teacher for 22 years. This is my 22nd year of teaching. And I was a CDC fellow in 1992. And I worked on educational policy. So this is a full circle moment for me. The fact that there is something moving forward in Congress that centers young people, that centers our students, who are economically disenfranchised, to me is like a dream come true. So I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to speak on behalf of my students. I teach in the South Bronx. I live in Westchester, but I teach in the South Bronx, and I am from the Bronx. And you are exactly what we need. And one of the best decisions I ever made was to cast my vote for you. You are exactly what we need. Our students need to know about you because you are what they can be. So when we look at equity in education, we have to think of it as the next civil rights movement, because that's exactly what it is. Our students have been left behind for far too long, and I am excited and so proud to be here today to support what you are putting forward. So thank you. And let's center the babies. Let's keep centering the babies.
Thank you. Next is Caitlin Carpenter, Mamaroneck High School, Sunrise, Westchester.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Carpenter. As was stated, I'm going to take this off. Give me one sec. I'm 16 years old and I'm a junior at Mamaroneck High School. I'm also an organizer with Sunrise Westchester, which is a branch of the nationwide youth-led movement for a Green New Deal. Our movement's working to bring an immediate stop to the climate crisis and recenter our society around just, equitable, and sustainable policies. Our vision is not only one that protects our generation's future, but one that strengthens it. As young people, however, we recognize that this strengthening cannot come without proper investment in the foundation of our nation's tomorrow, which is our schools. Nearly 3/4 of my life have been spent largely within the walls of a classroom or a hallway. My identity has been shaped by the teachers and faculty who took the time to listen to me and who made me feel like my thoughts were valued. Education is a gateway to the world, and so it makes sense that education works to preserve and improve upon that world. It is imperative that as we dismantle the climate crisis, as soon as possible, might I add, we simultaneously revitalize the communities on which this crisis will be most impactful. We must support investment in schools facing the greatest needs so that we can fight the intersecting challenges of our time, which is recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, racial inequity, and climate destruction. The Build Back Better stimulus will directly impact students' educational opportunities in the now, as well as ensure that we have a world of opportunities upon our graduation, and for that, I thank the Congressman. Especially in the midst of a global pandemic that has left schools in chaos, scrambling to keep students safe under constrained budget, investment in schools really matters. Investment in our climate really matters. So now is the time to make real our Green New Deal vision of a strengthened, sustainable, and equitable today and tomorrow for American students. For students who will soon be in your shoes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now what we've all been waiting for, It is a great honor and privilege to introduce Congressman Jamaal Bowman.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm just very humbled to stand with my colleagues and so many amazing leaders. I'm just humbled to be here. You know, I worked in public education for 20 years, and what I learned and what I know is that our children are brilliant, and our children have unlimited potential, and our children are scientists and mathematicians and artists and scholars and writers and performers and dancers, and they have the ability to do whatever it is they want to do. And it's our job in Congress and as elected leaders to make sure we provide the resources for our children to not just help them survive, but to thrive. We have to be visionary and forward thinking in terms of where we are taking our children. And we have to align what we do in our schools with the real world problems that we face. We are in a climate catastrophe right now, affecting hundreds of millions of people all over the world. And we need to get to net zero carbon emissions within the next 10 years. And I'm telling you right now, I'm sitting in Congress on the Education and Labor Committee and on the Science and Tech Committee, and they don't have answers to this very real problem. But we all know who has the answers. Our babies have the answers. So now is the moment to reimagine and redesign our learning environments so that our babies can solve the problems of the future. The problems that we aren't even aware exist yet. It is their curiosity, their creativity, their creative problem solving that will build a better world. What we've done over the last 20 years hasn't worked, and our black and brown and poor communities have been redlined for the last 50 years. And while schools in other parts of the country and district receive double the funding of Mount Vernon or the Bronx, that's just completely unacceptable. So this plan, this $1.6 trillion plan over 10 years is to make sure we target resources into the communities that need it the most, into the communities that have been redlined. And as we do that, we're going to see our kids blossom in a way beyond our imagination. I've had the pleasure of being a middle school principal for 10 years, and that's exactly what we tried to do in our school. One of the only schools that had an organic family farm program in their schools. One of the only schools that had a computer science program where our kids were learning Python code in the 6th grade. One of the only schools that had a S.T.E.A.M program just like this amazing facility we have here. Our kids are ready. They're waiting for us to catch up. So it's our job, it's my job in Congress to fight for every penny, nickel, and dime for our kids. And let's not allow, you know, often people try to make this economic argument. We don't have the money. Well, if we have the money for bombs and nuclear weapons, we got the money for our kids. If we have the money to give tax breaks to the wealthiest on Wall Street, we have the money for our kids. So let's center our children, our most precious resource. Let's allow them to breathe, literally and figuratively, because if you live in the Bronx, you're more likely to die of asthma than anywhere else in the country. Mount Vernon asthma rates, Mount Vernon and Yonkers is higher than the rest of Westchester. That's because of redlining, and that's because of targeted disinvestment in our communities. Well, now we want to flip the script on that.
That's right.
So that's why we're introducing this $1.6 trillion infrastructure plan that will redesign our school buildings into learning laboratories, where the kids will learn as they interact with the school building itself. Think about that. Not going into a classroom, sitting down, waiting for the teacher to give them information. Going into a classroom, standing up, walking around the room, exploring centers, seeing what's going on, asking questions, being curious, being collaborative, problem solving. Our kids are ready. They've been waiting for us, but we're here now. So let's make it happen, and let's build Wakanda. Thank you all so much. I'm sorry, it's my job to take questions, right? I'll take a couple questions if you have any. No.
Do you know how much money exactly is going towards District 17?
District 16.
District 6. My apologies.
Off the top of my head, a lot. So I believe it's 200 million for District 16 overall. But let me just be clear. That's for the American Rescue Plan. That's for the right now. That's to respond to COVID and begin some of the work we're talking about. But we don't want to wait for that and only focus on that. We got to continue to look toward the future. So this plan, this $1.6 trillion plan over 10 years is looking to the future. How do we reimagine and redesign our schools beyond COVID? That's what this plan is all about.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hi, I'm actually a history teacher in the South Bronx in Miss Eversweet. My question is, we need curriculum, we need books that resemble the history of our brown and black students. We also need textbooks that resemble the achievement of women. What is your proposal on that? I need my kids to understand that they also have a history that's rich and that contributed to their existence in our country.
So everything I introduce regarding education is in alignment with what you just said. I was doing that work as a middle school principal and as an educator throughout my entire career. Because if kids don't see themselves, they don't know what to gravitate towards, and it confuses their sense of identity, right? So we want our kids to know their history and culture, and we want to know that they are standing on the shoulders of people that built the pyramids and created democracy thousands of years before Europe came along and created democracy. So we want our kids to know that history as well. All right, peace and love, everyone. Take some pictures and celebrate. Have some fun. Thank you all.